Hey guys, what's going on? John here from John's Fishing Channel. Thanks for tuning in today. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, favorite this video. I would really appreciate the support. Sorry I took last week off. Nikki and I just have been extremely busy working on Nikki and John stuff, taking care of Iris. We've been running all over the place, but I haven't had time to get out and do any fishing yet, so I thought that I would take a lot of your questions about fly fishing and emails that I've got about fly fishing and just why I do it, how I got into it, and some of the equipment that I use to get the job done. Fly fishing is just another type and variation of fishing. It's a little bit different than your traditional spin fishing or casting fishing. It involves using a fly rod, flies, a little bit different equipment. I grew up fly fishing with my dad. I think I started about 8 years old in the yard. He gave me a relatively short fly rod, pretty small, and he put a piece of yarn on it, and I would work on casting to different target areas within the yard. We'd set up a circle, like piece of rope, and I would cast the fly rod with the yarn and try to land it in the circle. And my dad said when I was 12 years old and I'd learned how to fly fish already that he would take me out to Montana fly fishing with him. And pretty much every couple years after I was 12, my dad would take me out to Montana. We'd go to a little place called Craig, Montana, which is a wonderful, wonderful little city right on the Missouri River. And it's located in western Montana, kind of right where the mountains start. At the time, the Missouri was really not that well known of a fly fishing river. A lot of people were like, Missouri, are you sure that river is in Montana? But let me tell you what, it had some of the best trout fishing around. You would catch a giant rainbow trout as well as giant brown trout. Today, it's really a well-known trout fishery, and a lot of people seek it out as a destination to catch those big fish. The average fish that you would catch while fishing on the Missouri would be anywhere from 19 to 23 inches for rainbow, and big browns would run anywhere from 24 to 28 inches long. And if you're an avid trout fisherman, you know that those are big fish. Alright, so let's get into it. This is a fly rod carrying case. This is more of a travel case for a 4-piece rod, and it has a whole lot of padding in it so you can put your fly rod in it and not have to worry about it getting damaged. And like I said, this is a 4-piece rod. Alright, so here is a fly rod. This is a Scott 7-weight fly rod. There are different weights to different fly rods for different types of fish. The bigger the fish you're going for, the larger the fly rod weight that you want. So this is perfect for largemouth bass, large trout. You could even take this out and do a little bit of saltwater fishing with it if the fish didn't get too big. This is a 9-foot rod. It's very flexible. As you can see, there's a whole lot of whip to it. Just a whole lot of play in that rod right there. Fly fishing is a little bit different than spin fishing. You have a fly rod wheel here, and it really doesn't have any moving parts except for the fact that you can reel the line up and pull the line out as you go. Your basic fly fishing maneuver is up, down, up, down. And fly fishing is very much a learned skill. It's very, very hard and tricky to get the hang of and do everything right, but once you have it down, it's something that you never forget, just like riding a bike. And on this fly reel, we have what's called the Tippet, which is a very thin, light, translucent line that you tie your fly to. Like I said, it's clear and the fish cannot see it. And from there, we have what's called a leader, which is just a little bit heavier of a line. Again, it's clear, it's translucent, and it's used so the fish don't get spooked when you set that fly in there right on top of it. And then we have what's called a fly line, and fly line is a couple different colors. This happens to be a fly line that will float. It'll sit on top of the water, and they also have what's called a weighted fly line, which will sink down. And depending on what kind of fishing you're doing, will depend on what kind of fly line that you use. And just as a normal fishing rod, we take our fly line and we run it through the eyes of the rod all the way up to the top. For today's video, I'm just going to be tying a keychain ring onto the end of the line so I don't have to worry about actually having a hook on here. They make practice fly dummies that don't have hooks on them that you can tie onto your fly rod if you want to practice in your yard, which I'll be showing you how to do today. One of the biggest differences between regular fishing and fly fishing is on fly rod you use a fly, which is a hand-tied lure, and a fly is tied to mimic or represent any insect or bait fish, and you want to make sure that you're using the right type of fly in whatever type of water that you might be fishing. I've got my key ring tied to my fly rod. We're going to go ahead and just do a couple casts here. And depending on what kind of fishing you're doing will depend on, again, the size of your rod, the size of your line, the weight of your fly. Typically, the bigger the fish, the larger the fly. In some cases, it's opposite. The larger your fish you'll be going for, the smaller the fly you'll use. But when you're fly fishing for musky or saltwater fish, you get some pretty large flies, some really heavy rods. And let me tell you what, it is a lot of work to whip that big fly around. So your basic mechanics for fly fishing is up, down, up, down. And this rod is really an extension of my forearm. So when I come back and pull the fly up, I want to make sure that I am stopping straight up in the air with my rod like so. And this is another problem when you're fly fishing, is you want to make sure you know what's behind you, because if you get your fly stuck in a tree behind you, it can be a real hassle to get it out. We'll reel in a little bit of line. Again, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you really want to make sure that you get this rod straight up in the air every time. And one of the secrets to fly fishing is making sure that your back cast is slow and smooth. So it's kind of like basically like a 1/1000, 2/1000, or a. And that's actually how my dad taught me how to cast. 1, 2, 1, 2. And when we pull our line up all the way back like this, you want to make sure that you give that line time to straighten out in the air behind you all the way out. So it's going to go as far behind me as it is forward. So if I'm fishing 20 feet ahead of me with a fly rod, I want to make sure that this line is getting straight behind me 20 feet. And that'll allow me to use all that force to bring it forward, flick it out, shoot that line straight forward, and make sure that I'm hitting my target point. Again, nice and slow, 1 and 2, and as you can see, I'm pretty much hitting the camera, and I actually just got my key ring stuck right on the camera. And now I'm just using this football right here as a casting target. You can see that I am bringing it back nice and slow, and I'm landing my key ring within the general vicinity of the football. Again, you don't have to use a football, you can use a piece of rope and any type of target that you want to use, but this is a great way to practice fly fishing and getting your fly into what we call the target zone, where the fish can strike it and you're going to have the best opportunity to actually catch something. We got a couple different things at play here. When you're on the water, your lure or your fly isn't going to bounce when it hits the ground, so it'll actually stay where you cast it. But again, nice and slow, 1, 2. One of the biggest problems a lot of amateur fly fishermen run into is having too much line out. You don't want to have more line out than you can handle on your cast. I can do, maybe 20 to 30 feet of line casting consistently, really comfortable, have control over my line, get my fly out there and know what I'm doing. Once I get 35, 40 feet of line, it really is a lot of work to have that much line out. Then you get into advanced techniques called hauling, double hauling, stuff like that. I know how to do it. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm by no means an expert on the subject. Like I said, I can do it. Double hauling is when you're pulling your line out, you're going back and forth, you're ripping line out, you're pulling, you're really manipulating the line and your rod to get the maximum amount of line out there. People who double haul line can cast 50, 60, 70 feet. It's a technique that really comes into play when you're chasing hard to catch fish such as bonefish, tarpon. They see really well, they have huge eyes. A lot of times the water is very clear where those types of fish live, so you really need to be a far distance away when you're trying to catch those type of fish. When you're setting the hook on a fish, you want to hold your line under your finger right here. You want to strip it in. Make sure you maintain pressure on that fish by keeping your rod tip up in the air, and you're going to strip it in, you're going to strip it in, and you're going to pull it out of the water, and you're going to grab your line and take it off. And then when you let the fish go, if you keep the fish, depending on whatever your preference is when you're actually going to reel up and reset. Check your line after you catch a fish. Make sure there's no nicks in the line, that your hook is good, your fly is undamaged. A lot of times when you're fly fishing and you're catching a lot of fish, the fly will get a little bit damaged, and you're going to want to tie in a new one to maintain the proper imitation of whatever insect or bait fish that you might be using. Again, the reason I'm making this video is a lot of you guys have expressed interest in my fly fishing videos. They actually do quite well on my channel. I'll probably be doing a little bit more fly fishing in the upcoming year. As I said, it's something that I grew up doing with my dad. I have a lot of great memories fishing a lot of different rivers, a lot of different streams, a lot of different lakes. I've caught a lot of fish on fly rods, and it really is fun, and it's something that I really like to do when I am seeking out a certain type of fish. If I'm trying to target a big muskie, a big tarpon, a big trout, I like to bring my fly rod along because it really is a unique tool in our fishing arsenal to go out and just target a certain particular type of fish. Sometimes people get wrapped up in the whole, oh, one type of fishing is better than this type of fishing. I'm a fly fishing expert. I can do anything with a fly rod. I can cook with it. Spin fishing is stupid. It's for people who don't know how to fish. And it's just not the case with me. I love all types of fishing. I think they're all very interesting. Every single different type of fishing rod, spear, net, whatever type of fishing you're doing is really unique to whatever people want to do themselves. Some people like to fly fish, some people like to spin fish, some people like to net fish, some people like to spear fish. It really is just completely up to you. It's all about your personal preference, and like I said, I like all types of fishing. And I am not a fly fishing expert. I have a lot of experience doing it. I'm well versed in the art of fly fishing, but I don't know everything there is to know about fly fishing. So if you have any more questions about fly fishing, please comment below on this video. I'll follow up with another fly fishing video probably in a couple weeks, where I'll actually be on the water explaining to you guys what I'm doing, where I'm fishing, how I'm fishing, the type of rod that I'm using, what equipment that I have with me. But like I said, you guys had a lot of questions, a lot of emails about fly fishing, and I really appreciate the feedback from you guys. And my fly fishing videos do really good on this channel, so I'll follow this up with more fly fishing in the future. Next week, I hope to actually get out on the water and do a little bit of fishing. Things have just been so chaotic in my life recently. Nikki and I have been so busy, which is a good thing, but I just haven't had time to get out and do a little bit of fishing. We'll see you next week with more fishing from me, John. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, favorite this video, and let me know what you think about fly fishing.